DataSafe Solutions was developed in conjunction with Royal Cornwall NHS, and it assisted changing the processes that they had in place. So the consequences for Royal Cornwall NHS Trust for a single data breach are significant. They did their own internal impact analysis on what a single breach would be using a third-party provider, and it worked out at £13.2 million. So we've been working with Royal Cornwall for some time, but what they decided to do was change their processes and attempt to become not only the data controller, but the data processor. So they started trying to do that themselves, and they had a vast amount of engineers going out, collecting equipment, centralizing that equipment, manually recording the asset information of make, model, serial number, and then removing the data bearing out, physically removing the data bearing item out of that equipment, manually recording the hard drive serial number, make, model, and then looking to get that data bearing item destroyed. So they had a lot of engineers tasked to do this, and they'd done their own time and motion exercise to work out how long it was taking. So the average time it would take just to complete the data destruction exercise for one item was 34 minutes. And the other issue that they had was in taking the data bearing item out, in most cases they destroyed the asset itself, so there was no residual value held within those assets. When you're employing highly experienced IT technicians, they're on a significant amount of wages. Now, Royal Cornwall dispose of many, many thousands of items of IT equipment every year. And as I've just mentioned, it's 34 minutes per item, so you can work out the cost of that. There's no residual asset value to offset against those costs because the equipment's being destroyed. And finally, and the most important thing is, because this isn't an automated process, you're down to manually recording information. There's huge problems in human error. So you can't trust the information, you can't guarantee that the data in that equipment has been destroyed because we've got human error. Well, Royal Cornwall contacted us and explained that they wanted to become data processor as well as data controller. And we went and had a number of meetings with them and looked at the processes that they had in place, what the issues and the problems that they were dealing with, and how we could develop a bespoke solution that would solve the problems that they had in relation to time, space, safety, and give them that guarantee that no equipment was being removed from their site that had live data on it. We went back to Royal Cornwall with a solution, and that solution's grown over the last 2 years. You know, I think the product's been in place now and been used for over 2.5 years. And we started with the initial freestanding DataSafe because they had a lot of residual equipment that needed to be caught up with, and then we moved to the desktop DataSafe, of which they've got 3 in different locations, and now we're moving to the mobile DataSafe. What's been the outcome of that is Royal Cornwall don't have a problem anymore when it comes to tracking and tracing assets and end-of-life data destruction. They know, as a data controller and as the data processor, that nothing leaves their premises or their organisation that has got any personal or sensitive data within it. The amount of engineers that they've had has been significantly reduced, and they've repurposed and repositioned those engineers. We think there's only 2 engineers now that work on this. All of their equipment is now complete and whole, so that there is residual assets, and we track that asset information on how much cash back they would get if they then release that or resold that on, and it works out to about £9,000 every 2 weeks saved. The biggest issue they've got, and it's an issue other organisations that have, is they'll distribute an asset to an employee, and then that asset might be left in a cupboard or might be taken home. So we're introducing a RFID tracking system onto our QR codes that allows them to identify where that asset is within the organisation, or if that asset's been taken outside the organisation and by whom.